until now.
More than just business news, we're news for business people.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We are present at the Axis Capital India 2020 Stars Conference, and yes, it's a conference full of stars, a bunch of corporates out here. But to talk more about the conference, the mood at the conference, and what is the message that the Axis think tank is giving out to investors and maybe even corporates alike. I have the top think tank with me here. They need no introduction, but Dharmesh Mehta, MD and CEO at Axis Capital, just to get the designation straight. Salil Pitale, MD and Co-Head Investment Banking, Axis Capital, and Ashish Nigam, Executive Director, Deputy Head of Research at Axis Capital. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in. Dharmesh, not a bad time to do a conference, right? You are perched at new highs. Investor confidence in India is not waning. You couldn't have asked for more?
Yeah, it's perfect timing, and luckily from last 11 years, we were able to time this to perfection. Last year, if you remember, it was demonetization time. So actually, we landed exactly after, like, few days after demonetization. So there was a lot of excitement and nervousness to understand what's going to happen. This year, now we're discussing the same thing which happened last year. And yes, the markets are doing well. The IPO markets are done fantastically well in the last 2 years. The investors are bullish on India. Money flow is still on. Domestic liquidity is great. So I think that, yes, we got it at the timing right once again.
Yeah, and the beauty about doing a conference after a 30% rise from the demon lows is something quite special as well. The question is, when you talk to investors now and people who are coming in, if not for the first time, then after a brief hiatus back to India and talking to you about और कितना देगा market, I mean, how do you justify these valuations? What do you tell your investors? I'm sure they all know their numbers, but they're still seeking for a bit of number crunching, some bit of view on India over the course of the next 12 odd months until the next conference. What do you guys tell them?
So India is like half glass full, half glass empty currently. Because we had this demon and the GST impact in the last 1 year, no other country would have survived these two shocks in the same year. So in fact, the benefits of both these events are going to actually play out in the next 2 to 3 years. And that's what investors are looking for, saying that you had the worst possible period in the last 1 year when you were impacted, and still you've grown so much. Imagine what happens when all the initiatives starts kicking in.
Yeah.
So despite this whole 30% rise, I believe people think that there's going to be enough upside. Yes, you may not get the 30-35% return which you got in the last 1 year, but even if you're able to make 15-20% return, I think the investors are definitely going to bite it, because there's no other avenue where to go and invest to make that kind of money today, and that too with a lesser risk.
Yeah, and the macros are improving. We just did some number crunching today about how the credit growth has started to pick up as well, compared to the earlier stance of only deposits moving up. Now, before we get to the flavor of the conference, you can't ignore, Salil, one thing. And guys, just feel free to come into every question. But Salil, you can't really not talk about the one thing that has happened over the last 6 months, is that the markets and the flows have digested every single large issue, large QIP, and the lock-in periods getting over for a bunch of previously companies, and still managed to wade through all of these.
Yeah, I think you should I see that in the perspective that the amount of money that's come post-demonetization into India from the Indian markets itself. So we just the last count data points in terms of domestic flows into the Indian industry is about 98,000 crores. That's more than double of what FII flows have been. The FII net flows have been about 42,000 crores. So that's the kind of money that's come out from the domestic mutual fund industry, and the FII has not been as strong as one would like to believe. Now, all of that money is on the back of the fact that India has moved into more financial savings in economy compared to what it was. Money's come out of closets and into the banks, and then flowed back into the system and mutual funds and so on. I mean, we were on the roadshow when doing the deal for Reliance Nippon Asset Light Management, and when we went after that on the roadshow, we realized that the amount of money coming in SIPs through the smallest of towns in India is extraordinarily high. Extraordinarily high. So I think all of that is channelizing into the kind of inputs that are going in for some of the deals. Last year we did about 17 IPO transactions in the last 10 months of time, which is an extraordinary record for ourselves. And a lot of these were large sizes. The amount of money that we've raised in these IPOs is in excess of 45,000 crores. And these deals have gone through extremely well. So I think it's a function of the fact that there's enough money supply into the system. There's quality paper. and wherever the paper is also well priced, there is a strong response for that paper itself.
Yeah, and you guys are present everywhere, right? We talk about some statistics as well of the money that has been raised this year. I mean, you've been virtually there in almost all of the large deals as well. Any thoughts there before we move on to the conference, Tamesh?
Sure. So Neeraj, also I always say, and I believe very strongly, that it's the supply which brings in demand. The demand doesn't bring in supply.
Okay.
So as and when there's supply coming in, you get all the investors start coming and looking into the stock or the country or the specific sector. So earlier, the problem in the last, maybe before 2 years was there's not enough supply coming to the markets, and people are not able to invest in new businesses. So if you see from the last 3 years, the amount of new businesses which have come in, like as earlier avatar of Inam and now Axis Capital, we always brought new industries to the market. And this time in the last 2 years, the amount of new industries which have hit the market is phenomenal. And that's what people are waiting for. And that's why some of these industries or some of these companies are getting some crazy valuation, because people want to invest, but earlier they were not able to invest. Obviously, those sectors will mature on a period of time and the valuation will become reasonable. But if you're asking me, is there enough demand for it? You get me more supply, I'll get you as much demand as you want.
Wow, yeah. Insurance may be the poster boy, but I'm sure a bunch of other sectors have created, and maybe that makes the job difficult, right, Ashish? I mean, there is only as much paper that you can track, as many companies that you can track. But what's the theme of this conference, and is this theme tying in with all the recent reports that you've given out? Because I was looking through all the Axis Capital research. We do that at BQ very closely. You guys have been selectively bullish on consumption, selectively bullish on exports. Is that the theme at the conference as well?
So it's not really the theme of the conference. So one thing that's playing out in terms of earnings. So this year, FY18, you have, let's say, around a 10% growth in earnings for the overall market. And right now it's sector specific. You have banks which are contributing, mainly the private banks and NBFCs. You have autos, you have metals, you have basically global commodities. But there are a lot of sectors which haven't contributed. Luckily from FY19 onwards, the growth picks up and the growth is more broad-based, which is why this conference also is not focused only towards one sector. It's a bouquet of sectors, and because of all cylinders firing in FY19. So which is why there's no sector preference or sector dislike going into FY19, and that's the theme of the conference. We have the who's who of every single sector at the conference.
In fact, we term this conference as more as the India conference, because you are able to see everybody from India, right, from retail to commodities to manufacturing, to the banking, financial services, media, almost everything possible is now put into the conference, because you're right, markets have run up. There is no particular theme in which people are investing in. People are investing in individual stocks, individual sectors. So clearly, who are the leaders, who are the best companies within that sector is what people are looking at. Hence, it was a challenge to make a theme, so we made it like completely an India theme and almost get everybody possible in that.
Yeah, but typically at the start of a conference, people tend to get some flavor of where is it that the maximum demand or maximum queries for a theme, a sector, a company is coming in. You have that at every conference. What's been that this time around for your conference?
It's an India incorporated
I know,
conference, and maybe
I'll
give you a flavor of what we get to see. As investment bankers, we go out and do a lot of business development. The breadth of companies in terms of different quality names across sectors is amazing in India. I mean, let's face it, India is a huge country. You got fantastic enterprise.
True.
You needed enablers for that enterprise. A lot of these enablers, whether it's DMON, whether it's GST, have all been enablers. There might have been issues in the immediate implementation, but what we are seeing by and large across board is a phenomenal set of enterprise across sectors. So you see the nature of companies that we're taking public, all doing work for people in the services space, people in the healthcare space, in exchanges. Okay, there's logistics space, there's mutual funds. I mean, so there's no dearth of width. The other central point that we're seeing in a lot of such companies is that it's not that those companies that are coming to the markets are companies which are early stage companies. A lot of these companies have been well built out. They have super strong return on capital ratios. So quality names coming into the marketplace, which is across sectors, which is a great stuff. And even in the pipeline that we're building out over the next year, we're seeing a lot of similarity there across.
In fact, you saw from the house of Godrej and Mahindra's after 10 years an IPO coming. And both were exciting space. One was agri and one was logistics. Now, where are you going to get a quality company in a logistics space with a brand like Mahindra and the corporate governance they have and the track record and this is what investors actually want to buy.
Sure.
Okay, sometimes people may argue on the valuation, but then why should you get it cheap in this kind of markets when there's no other revenue? Especially if you're getting a high quality management. I'd rather sleep over the stock for 5 years and then look at the rate of return rather than thinking how much will I get in an IPO pop on the day one of listing.
Yeah.
I think so the investor horizon has to now change and they have to now start looking as a 1 to 3 year play rather than immediate 1 or 3 months play now.
Are investors ready to lap that up argument, Ashish, and what space is out there? Because I know that you as a house are really bullish on consumers. One pocket, there is a fair bit of consumer representation in the conference amongst everything. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying consumer is the one, but consumers has a fair bit of representation in this as well. Any thoughts there?
So the investor concern really is when does growth pick up?
Okay.
And is
We're
an
talking about
earning,
consumption right now.
I'm talking about just across.
Yeah,
I mean, overall growth. Your growth has been sluggish overall. If you're talking about 10% this year, it's nothing extraordinary.
Sure.
I mean, you're going to have that growth more back-ended because the base of last year is very low because of demonetization. But if you have a situation where, you're seeing growth mainly in the sectors which are beaten down. See, in the last 4 years, you've seen massive earning downgrades, and mainly in sectors like banks, in pharma, in power.
Yeah.
So your typical investor psychology is that the ones that are beaten down can lead the earning upgrade cycle. So there's a slightly more interest for those sectors than the ones that have done well so far. But like I'm saying, I mean, there's not like the sectors which have done well are not doing well in FY19 or 20 as well.
Yeah,
so
which is the question, right? I mean, autos, for example, and either of you can come, any of you can come in. But here's a space that is done reasonably well, and I think it's foolhardiness to argue that October was a slightly patchy month. I mean, don't look at 1 month or 1 quarter. Look at the 12 months or a 24-month cycle.
He's the auto champion. So
Yeah,
give you the best answer.
So one way to see it is that today don't look at just October. You have to look
Precisely.
at September and October because the festive of last year was spread, and this time it was just spread over 2 months. Last year it was just bunched up in October.
True.
I think there's been a change in the way people are seeing autos. It's a very good way to play consumers in India. It's a relatively inexpensive way to play it compared to staples. And there are all clean companies, good balance sheets, good return on capital. So, which is why auto sector is being re-rated. And so, people looking at valuations as how it was compared to historical averages is not the right way to see it. So, good companies which we have in our conference as well, I mean, they might be expensive, but if you look at it as a way to play consumers in India, it's relatively a cheaper way to play it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, before I talk about insurance with you, Salil, Dharmesh, I just want to get this question to you. You're a man who's, I've known you for a number of years now. You've tracked various cycles as well. Typically, companies and sectors and themes used to follow a cycle. Nowadays, what we've seen, there are a bunch of these sectors which don't really see too much of a trough because cycles are getting compressed as well, so to say. We don't have too long a down cycle, and with the fund flow coming in, the nature, it's being bought into. To your mind, here on, the next 3 years, the message that you're sending about this space, again, I know that you've gotten companies across the sphere, but what are the themes, what are the cycles that you believe will be the top of the pile over the course of the next 3 years? I'm not asking for 12 months or 6 months.
So I'll tell you one thing, as I said, these two events, GST and DeMon, it's never happened in the history of India. So it's all the first time. So everything has been tested today. Even me with an experience of maybe 27 years, still don't know what is going to happen next. Right?
Really?
Because
Okay.
nobody has seen that.
Okay.
Let's be very honest. Let's not be saying that, okay, we know what's going to happen next. But clearly 1 year before, somebody told me in the last conference that markets will be up 30%. Nobody would have believed me. So clearly cases that nobody knows. But the upside for India, as I said, is a half glass full, half glass empty. All the benefits of DeMon and GST are now going to flow in. India needs infrastructure. India needs power. India needs cement consumption. All of these are yet to happen. So what you've seen is just maybe a financial services rally and a consumption rally. But you're still going to see the big rally, which is of your main infrastructure, where the spending has to come if India has to grow at 8 to 10%. So all your infrastructure or power has to move. And that's what people are now trying to see, whether the time has come to go into the stocks. Like we had done a Dilip Bilkon IPO last year. It's up almost 4 to 5 times.
Yes.
And in the time when people thought nothing is happening in infra space. So clearly, if you have a good leader, good executor, people are ready to pay their valuations. And because there is a huge upside left, because a lot of things what I've discussed is yet to happen.
But is it time to do that, or is it very, very selective in these themes?
It has to be selective.
Very, very
go
selective.
for the leader, go for the best execution guy, because end of the day, execution is the king today.
Yeah.
So whoever is able to execute, like last few weeks back, we did a real estate QIP of 500 crores, and he got 3 or 4 times demand.
Yeah.
While the real estate sector, people think is in downs. Yeah. So if selectively, everywhere people are looking to invest, so that's why the whole conference theme was get India in, because it's not I'm seeing a preference toward only a BFSI segment or a consumer. It's all across. And As you know, we have Sachin Jindal for the market interview. He's going to talk about his entire group, his commodities, cement, you're talking steel.
Yes.
Now, that's what even people are looking at, and JSW has done phenomenally well in the last 1 year.
Yeah.
So, it beats me to understand what's going to move. That's why I'll not be over smart and try to go and play themes. I'd rather play individual stocks and see where the investments are coming. You're going to see investment coming in logistics space, infrastructure, waterways, railways, all of them. And don't forget, railways is also going to hit the IPO market soon.
Yeah.
So, and even the defense. So just imagine when I'm talking so many sectors opening up, this can guzzle a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the capex there is going to be huge. So the big India show is actually yet to happen.
Yeah, I think Milind Barve was there at the mutual fund show 3 or 4 weeks back, and he was saying that I think people are overemphasizing on the quantum of flows coming in and whether that will lead to hyper valuations. The quantum of supply coming in will easily absorb a lot of this money and more as well.
And also, I think so people have to understand this is the new India. Because we are all now relating our domestic flows to what happened historically.
Sure.
The game has changed.
The game has changed.
I don't think so we're going to go back to the historical level. People don't look at equities.
Yeah.
So this is the new India what you're seeing. So let's accept the reality and then we start comparing. Let's not just say because the earlier number was so dismal. Like whatever you look from now is going to look great, but I wouldn't be looking at that. Is the real money which is supposed to come as an Indian equity is coming in? I think so more money can still flow in.
Okay. What about conversations? I mean, I think if we look at the last 6 months, clearly the poster boy, nobody will deny it, in terms of new paper coming into the market has been insurance. Do you reckon over the next 6 to 9 or 12 odd months, it will continue to remain companies in the BFSI theme, or something new is coming up? Dharmesh referred to a couple of spaces. I don't know if those conversations are red hot right now.
So let's put it, the insurance space, the big daddies in insurance have kind of gone ahead and already hit the marketplace. So you do not expect the same quantum of supplies from the insurance side to come in. They're real big, 10% dilution itself is a big guzzler. But keep in mind the fact that, people who've done the 10% dilutions have to eventually get to 25%. So there will be paper which will come out from the insurance space, not maybe in the next 12 months, but clearly over the next 36 months time, it's bound to happen. But I think what we would see going ahead will be, some different kinds of the larger papers that one could see. So one area that we talked about, real estate. The outcome of the real estate side will also be some paper which will come out in the REITs form. And believe you me, the kind of companies that will hit using the REITs platform will really be the top-end developers, high-quality paper. It's a fantastic product. Globally, it's such a large product compared to equities market. So one can expect a bit of that coming out over the next 12 months' time. So I think that's an important aspect. He talked about energy and so on. So I think, again, let's say renewables as a space is again an area wherein you will see some action. There's a lot of action happening on the ground in any case. So yes, there will be some of that kind of paper. Then you will see a diverse set. I mean, the kind of paper we are seeing is across retail, across logistics, across services. A lot of them will also have exits from private equity, which has been the norm in the the last period of time. And again, these are high quality companies, well matured, and IPO is just an exit for private equity and for public to participate in those. So some of those stuff will come, and those will be very sector agnostic.
Okay, thanks. So last couple of questions really before we wrap up this discussion. Ashish, firstly to you, a lot of conversations that we had with portfolio managers over the last 1 month. Diwali is a great time. Dharmesh doesn't come, but a lot of other people do come on air and talk during the Diwali time about what their view is over the next 12 months. I think one theme that stood out, aside of domestic economy facing theme, is the uplift that exporting companies could get as a result of the global GDP growth that will happen over the next 12 months. Almost, and people believe that all manufacturing will benefit, some more and some less. At Axis Capital, what are your thoughts on the export-oriented themes?
So there's two ways to see this. Today, if you have a rupee depreciation because of factors which are not good for India, it's good for exporters, but it's not good for India.
Sure.
I mean, think about it. Today, right now, we're working with crude prices at $64. If it sustains at this level, the average for the year will be around $57 or so, which is slightly higher than what the RBI was working with, a lot of, economists were working with. So it's manageable. But today, if you see crude, inch up to $70, etc., that can be a big, pressure on currency. It's obviously going to have huge implications on the CAD. Obviously, growth. Luckily, the fisc is not looking as bad because the oil subsidies have been low, so credit to the government where it's due. The only thing is that today, it's very easy to have the fisc under control when the oil was $45 or $50.
And it's not so easy now.
And I mean, if you are in a scenario where crude goes to $70 and you have elections coming up, and you have to manage inflation and elections.
Sure.
And it's very easy to have fuel deregulated at 45.
Right.
Is it really deregulated at 70? We have to see that.
Sure.
So I think there's two ways to see this. If today the currency depreciates because of an uptick in crude prices, we'd be worried about the economy as a whole, obviously. Yes, exporters might benefit.
One factor. I mean, just before we wrap.
Global interest rates also playing a
Yes.
role,
Yes.
right? So you don't know what Fed's going to do, which is looking like a tightening cycle now.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot of global events.
Powell more so than.
So you're seeing a global, political tensions. You're going to see the interest rate tension. You're seeing the oil price. So there are a lot of things globally which can impact India more rather than locally.
Yeah, true.
Locally is going to be one big election. That's it. After that, you're still going to then. Pace out for next 2 years what happens.
Sure.
But globally, the volatility is going to be much larger.
It is.
And that's the reason people are going to be cautious and nervous because the valuations don't support you.
Yeah.
On the side, you've got external factors which nobody can guess.
Sure.
Only the good whole thing about is this, that India is in a great spot.
Okay.
And that's the only things you're buying and you're hoping that the capex spend which people are talking about or the credit offtake, which is you just saw in the last quarter happening in a bit, will pick up more and actually that will drive the growth.
Okay, and that's, I believe, is the central message at this conference as well to almost all your investors out there.
Believe the India story, and I think so. You're going to make a lot of money, but there will be some volatility. But a long term, I think so. India is the best place to be in.
Yeah, right. The volatility. Somebody put it yesterday. Don't stand in front of the speeding train. I think Buffett keeps on saying, "Don't bet against America." You right now say, "Don't bet against India."
No ways.
Okay, great, gentlemen. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in.
Thank you very much.
It's great being here at the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
प्रदेश सरकार ने सफलतापूर्वक 36,000 करोड़ रुपए का किसानों के कृषि का जो फसली ऋण था वो माफ़ किया है और यूपी पहला राज्य है जिसने सफलतापूर्वक अपने कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाया है। लेकिन जो 36,000 करोड़ रुपए आए, 36,000 करोड़ रुपए हम लोगों ने किसी पर टैक्स नहीं लगाया। एक 36,000 करोड़ रुपए हम लोगों ने हम लोगों ने भारत सरकार से भी नहीं मांगे। ये 36,000 करोड़ रुपए हम लोगों ने किसी बैंक से भी उधार नहीं लिया। ये 36,000 करोड़ रुपए हुआ था जिसमें अगर सपा या बसपा होती तो ये सब पैसा चट हो गया होता। हमने 36,000 करोड़ रुपए प्रदेश सरकार की फिजूल खर्ची से, जो लीकेजेस थे उनसे और प्रदेश सरकार के अनावश्यक योजनाओं से हम लोगों ने इस राशि को बचत किया और बचत करके हमने सफलतापूर्वक अपने इस कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाया। अब आश्चर्य करेंगे, उत्तर प्रदेश में समाजवादी पार्टी के समय में प्रदेश के गरीबों के लिए बने थे मात्र 29,000 मकान। हम लोगों ने 7 महीने में अब तक 11 लाख आवास हम गरीबों को दे चुके हैं, जिसमें लगभग 9.25 लाख आवास हम लोग दिए हैं ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में और लगभग 2 लाख के आसपास आवास हमारे शहरी क्षेत्र में गरीबों को गए हैं।
बने हुए घर,
प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना में आवास की राशि दी जाती है ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में 1,20,000 रुपये, 3 किस्तों में राशि दी जाती है। पहले 40-40-40 का था, हमने इसको 40, 70 और 10 का किया है। ये हम लोग उसमें ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में उपलब्ध करवा चुके हैं। ये आवास 1/3 बन चुके हैं, बाकी बनने की प्रक्रिया में बन रहे हैं। कुछ आधा बन चुका है, उसमें 2nd किस्त जारी है, किसी में 3rd किस्त जारी है। इस प्रकार से तैयार हुए हैं। 20 लाख ऐसे लोग थे जिनके पास विद्युत के कनेक्शन नहीं थे। ये संख्या बहुत बड़ी संख्या यूपी में। पूरे देश के अंदर जितने लोग बिजली के कनेक्शन जिनके पास नहीं, उसमें से लगभग आधी संख्या यूपी की
है। बिल्कुल।
उसमें 20 लाख लोगों को अब तक हम मुफ्त कनेक्शन दे चुके हैं। लेकिन ये मुफ्त कनेक्शन किस रूप में है? हम उस कनेक्शन धारी व्यक्ति के घर में मीटर लगा रहे हैं और फिर उसके अनुसार वो भुगतान कर रहा है। तो टैक्स पेयर्स के साथ न्याय है, अन्याय नहीं। क्योंकि वो टैक्स पेयर जो बेचारा अब तक टैक्स देता था और बिजली उसको नहीं मिल पाती थी, कारण है कि एक बड़ी संख्या ऐसी थी जो कंटिया डालती थी या बिजली की चोरी करती थी। जब हम उसको विद्युत कनेक्शन के साथ जोड़ रहे हैं तो वो भी पैसे का भुगतान कर रहा है। तो एक बड़ी संख्या वह है जिसमें हम लोग अब तक लगभग 20 लाख लोगों को ये विद्युत के निःशुल्क कनेक्शन दे करके वहाँ मीटर लगा करके उनको कनेक्शन, बिजली का भुगतान, विद्युत बिल का भुगतान करने के लिए हम लोग उनको प्रेरित कर चुके हैं। एक बड़ा कार्य इसमें हम लोगों के बढ़ रहा है और हमारा जो लक्ष्य है बहुत बड़ा लक्ष्य है। हमारे प्रदेश में लगभग 1 करोड़ 46 लाख ऐसे आवास हैं जिनके पास विद्युत कनेक्शन नहीं है।